Hello guys, welcome back to my blog of MEXT Scholar. Today I'm going to talk about something not all that exciting but definitely important. I'm talking about all the administrative procedures that a MEXT Scholar has to go through once they arrive, and in my case, and as is the case this year in general, once they get out of quarantine. So I left the hotel early morning on the 16th day after arriving in Japan, and I went to the large city station, took the bus and arrived at the dormitory. It's a university dormitory, so it is pretty organized. It is meant for university students, international ones in particular. So the lady in charge opened the door to me and took my temperature, of course, and she took me to my room, explained to me how to open the mailbox, and she made me unlock the door to make sure I was able to. And then when I made a couple of steps without taking my shoes off, she was like, "Oh, what are you doing? Shoes off, please, shoes off." This is very, very important in Japan. Even in the classroom, we take our shoes off. So I took my shoes off, and then she showed me around the apartment, and she invited me to go downstairs to a specific room in which I could choose some objects that previous renters left, such as, dishes, cups, and so on. And I took quite a lot of stuff, like enough to live by, yet I had to go shopping in the next couple of days in order to add a couple of more objects. So I received a handbook talking about the apartment and how I'm supposed to pay the rent, pay my bills, how I'm supposed to throw out the garbage. Actually, this is really quite specific, and I think I finally got the hang of it. There are two separate types of bags in which we are supposed to put three different types of rubbish. They're the yellow bags, in which we put everything that's combustible, that is to say, apparently all sorts of food leftovers or paper that is not recyclable. And then there is the second type of bag that's transparent, and in a transparent bag you're supposed to put two types of garbage, but separately. So both types have to be in a transparent bag, but they should not be together, otherwise the bag will not be taken away by the rubbish collectors. So in one of them, things like plastic, basically plastic bags, any sort of food covering that cannot be burned, like that is not made of paper. And the third type of garbage, which goes to the same type of bag but a different one, only plastic bottles and cans. So this is the one that fills up the most slowly. So I got bed sheets that I can change every week. I'm not supposed to wash them myself, but I can go and leave them in a particular place in the building and get clean ones. Also, there have been very clear instructions about how to make my bed, and a little bit too clear, including how to lie down. I need lots of instructions, but still that was a little bit too much for me. The water is included in the rent, by the way, but the electricity isn't. The heating is air conditioners, and the electricity bill is paid in a different way. It is not related to the accommodation, not directly. Actually, I can talk to you about paying my rent and my electricity bill, as I already paid for the first month. The electricity bill was the more difficult one because I had to set up an online account while the information was entirely in Japanese. Thankfully, my tutor helped me do this, but even now the first payment did not go through the system. I had to go in a konbini or convenience store and pay there. In order to pay the bill, I had the choice between several options. One was credit card, but like really credit card, not debit card, not even possibly not the local bank's card. So I opted for paying in a konbini, in a convenience store, particularly in 7-Eleven because the payment kind of differs. And it was pretty straightforward. After I receive a letter by post asking me to pay the rent, I have to go to a particular website and fill in the information from the letter, like the bill's number. And then I get a number, a code with which I can go to 7-Eleven or another convenience store and make the payment. With the electricity bill, actually it was easier. I just took the letter there and they filled in the code in their system or whatever. One of the first things we are asked to do after arriving in Japan is go to the local ward and fulfill our resident registration. As I've mentioned before, once you enter Japan as a person with a visa, with a particular type of visa, such as student visa, you get a residence card. However, when they give it to you, it's empty on the back side. It is to be filled later with your address once you have one. And this is one of the things you do at the local ward. You do 3 things, okay? So, resident registration, like address registration, then health insurance, and finally you join the pension scheme. Actually, you have to do all that up to 2 weeks after you arrive in Japan, but of course, given the quarantine, this is not as strict, and I went there right away the first day after I got out of quarantine. We had been given instructions by the university how exactly to go about it, and once again the instructions were very clear, maybe a little bit too clear. So at the ward, you go to one counter, you fill in a form. It's pretty straightforward to fill in, and the university had provided an example of a form that has been filled in. It is in Japanese, but yes, the one the university had provided had English in it too. So once you fill in the form, you draw a number through an electronic system, and when they call your number, you go to the counter, you give your registration card and the filled in form, and you wait for them to complete the registration. Then they give you your card back with the address written on it now, and they give you like a document that also is some kind of evidence for address registration. And then they very clearly point you to the next counter where you have to go and complete the health insurance. Then I think you don't even have to fill in a form then. They do it for you based on the information that they already have from the previous form you filled in. And then once again, once this is done, they point you to the next counter where you join the pension scheme. And if you're a student, you're exempt from any sort of payment that is supposed to go toward your pension. You have to show a student card in order to prove that you're exempt. And in fact, according to the information that the university gave us, we would have had to go back if we went without the student card. However, in my case at least, they just asked me if I were a student and they said, okay, you're exempt. The way it goes is first you become a member, and you can expect to receive a letter by post asking you to make some kind of payment. However, you're supposed to do nothing now. You're supposed to wait a little bit longer until you receive the official exemption based on your student status. After the registration at the local ward comes the MEXT Scholarship procedure. Of course, everyone was in a rush to complete this one because it guarantees us the payment of our scholarship. Given that we had been waiting 2 weeks in a hotel and probably a month or two beforehand without working, it would make sense that we're looking forward to receiving the scholarship. So the university hosted an orientation session that MEXT scholars were absolutely required to attend. Once again, it was a little bit too much in my opinion. Like, we had to have an appointment for half an hour in order to attend this orientation. However, it took maybe 10 to 15 minutes. At this orientation, they showed us how we can automatically sign for the scholarship next time. Basically, everyone that receives the MEXT scholarship is supposed to sign once a month in order to receive the scholarship. It's kind of proof that you are there, that you're in Japan and in the university. There are 2 signing periods. The first one is in the beginning of the month. And if you sign in the beginning of the month, this guarantees that you will receive the scholarship or by maybe the middle of the month. However, there is a second period after that, toward the end of the month or middle of the month. And in this case, you receive the scholarship again, but later on, maybe by the end of the month or even the beginning of the next one. And if you miss both of these signing periods, you don't get the scholarship for the month. Another thing they did at the orientation meeting was they gave us filled-in forms with which we can go to the local bank. It has to be a particular bank, post bank, and open a bank account. And it is in this bank account that we're going to receive the scholarship. So after I received these forms that had been filled in with my information, including my name in katakana, which is all things that I would have struggled to do by myself. So it's great, so great that they do them for you. The next day I went to the bank to open an account because the deadline for signing was approaching, and also because they said that in order to open a bank account for foreign citizens, it may take a little bit longer than usual. Usually you would have it opened the same day. However, in the case of a foreign national, you might have to wait a few days. However, once again, they exaggerated things. It was not that slow. It took maybe half an hour to 1 hour, but I definitely had my bank account opened the same day. I even had a really cool, like, pink booklet. I was really happy because the ones that were given as an example were all just very plain and green and monotonous. So anyway, I had to then send pictures of the first pages of this bank booklet to the MEXT Scholarship office. And then I was just waiting to receive the scholarship. I received it already, actually. After you open a bank account, you also receive a card. I don't know how useful it is. Like, I don't think you can make online payments with it, for example, but you can definitely use it at an ATM, which you can find in any convenience store. They don't give you the card right away. They send it to you by post several days later. But you don't need to have the card in order to receive the scholarship. And finally, we also had to join 2 insurance schemes. I don't know to what extent these are universal for Japan, because one is managed by the university co-op, but I suppose there is at least a similar process in all universities. So one of the insurances is in case something happens to you or someone does something to you. This one was easy to fill in online through the university system. And then the other one, it was a little bit more complicated. Like I said, this one was managed by the University Co-op, and they have a shop, they have an office. So you're supposed to go there. There is a form to fill in that you receive beforehand from the university. But it is a little bit of a complicated form to fill in, like making out exactly how much you're supposed to pay and stuff, for how long in one go, and so on. So they were very helpful. They filled it in for me. I had started, but they didn't mind filling in what I had not filled in or correcting some things I had filled in wrong. So this one was also significantly more expensive. The other one was maybe 10 euros for 1 year, while this one, in one go, I had to pay around 6,000 yen, maybe around 2,000 for the insurance itself, and 4,000 in order to join the University Co-op, because it is necessary to join it in order to get the insurance. And once you join it, you pay 4,000 yen that you can get back at the end of the year. You receive a particular card that allows you to get 10% off goods in the shop. So here we go. It's a nice shop. There is food, there are books, there is stationery. I think this sums up the administration stuff that has to be completed by MEXT scholars once they arrive at the university. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask in the comment box. I can try to help you. Some of these procedures were a bit stressful, some were a bit complicated, some had to be completed pretty fast, but most importantly, all of them were kind of a one-off. Like, obviously I have to pay my rent again every month, but I don't have to make out what the best way to pay it is. I don't have to make out how I'm supposed to use the card and take out cash and then pay in the convenience store. So yeah, it's worth it at the end of the day. It is not that much work. It is over in a couple of weeks. And then you can enjoy your time in Japan and your studies. Okay guys, I hope this has been helpful, and see you next time, possibly with some topic that is more fun than administration. Bye bye!